Anchors up, sails at full. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing all right, Jared. Doing all right. How are you doing?
Hey, man, it's hate week. It's hate week, but that doesn't mean it's not time to honor the new tradition that's a good tradition. So we got that out of the way. Time to talk about you-know-who.
They go by many names. The team up north.
The cheaters up north. Yeah. The school up north.
The school up north.
Some other ones that we can't say in the first couple minutes of a YouTube video.
We'll save that for later. We'll save that for later. But
well, yeah. Stay tuned after the second ad break where we tell you what the other names are.
All right. Here we are, Jared. We've been waiting for this for 366 days.
Was this a bye year? A bye-week year? Leap year. That's the term. The term's leap year.
That's it.
Bye year is much more exciting.
Yeah. It is time, Jared, to know your enemy.
Yeah, buddy. Let's get to know our enemy. All right, Kyle. If I miss any M's, let me know, okay?
That's actually impressive. I will say there's not many. There's not many in there. So I will take that.
I think I got them all. I think I got them all.
All right. That team up north, 6-5, 6-5, 4-4 in the Big Ten coming into the game here. Offensively, struggling is putting it nicely.
Yeah.
Having a hard time finding their identity. Obviously last year they were just
really nice way of saying it.
Yeah. They were just a run type of offense last year, but with so many departures to their offense last year and the inability to be able to pass as well, has made them just not even one-dimensional, like zero-dimensional. It's been zero-dimensional.
So they don't exist.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean I hate to get all physicsy on you.
Stats up there.
I hate to get all physicsy on you, but zero-dimensional just means poof, no existence, right? Points per game, 23.1, which puts them 98th in the country. That's been bolstered a bit by the fact that they did score 50 against Northwestern last week. So they have that going for them at least. Yards per game, just shy of 300, placing them 126th in the country. Yards per play, 116th in the country. Yards per rush, 54th in the country. Not bad. Comparatively. Yards per pass, they only get 5.6 yards per pass, placing them 130th in the country.
That's not good. That's not good at all, right, Jared?
Turnover margin, 97th in the country. Time of possession, 37th. Not bad. Because as bad as their offense is, and it's bad, to be very clear, it's bad. But as bad as their offense is, their defense is really good. And statistically speaking, you could have looked at the Indiana defense from last week, and the Indiana defense was better. If you just look at the raw stats. If you just look at the raw stats, Indiana defense was better. But stop and consider for a moment all of those offensive stats I just told you. If you've watched any Michigan this year, and I have, if you've watched any Michigan this year, then you know that quite frequently their defense would keep them in the game for a long time But while the defense is incredibly talented and it has gotten deeper as the year went, as more players have gotten experience, but as the games went, they would fall. The defense eventually just gets tired, right? Like,
yep.
And again, a time of possession, when you are only getting less than 300 yards per game, the fact that their time of possession is still over 50% is a huge credit to their defense. Like, this is a really, really, really good and very talented defense. Don't expect Ohio State to jump out to a 21-point lead in the first 15, 20 minutes of the game. That's all I'm saying. It'd be nice. And if it does happen, it'll probably be because of their offense, putting them in terrible field position, whatever that case might be, right? Some terrible turnovers, because their offense has done that to their defense at times this year, where they've just. So, I mean, it's possible that you see Ohio State with a quick 21-0 lead in this game. It would have to be because Ohio State was given opportunities for that, because you're not just going to march right down the field against this defense 3 times in a row, 4 times, or, 3 out of 4 times even. And you're not going to get a lot of, easy drives against Michigan. Like, you're just not going to. It's just not going to, it's probably not going to happen unless, I said, there's some turnovers or whatever that go your way. Because like I said, the defense is really good. Points per game, 26th. Yards per game, 14th. Yards per play, 21st. Yards per rush, 9th. Yards per pass, 38th. As bad as the offense is, the defense is really good. And again, if you know ball, if you know football, you know that in order to put up good defensive numbers, you kind of have to have good offensive numbers to go with it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your defense just gets tired and breaks down eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Part of me looks at this team here and looks at like, man, like, how is this team going to score against Ohio State?
I'll be honest, I don't see it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a very, very fair point, but looking at some of the past games of what that team up north has done so far this year. So let's look at some of their toughest games that they faced.
Sure.
Let's look at Oregon. Lost 38-17.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in Ann Arbor.
Yep.
They had 270 yards of offense, 11 first downs, and they had the ball for 27 and a half minutes. So not quite what they're averaging for the year too. So they didn't have the ball that long, and Oregon put up 470, nearly 500 yards against them.
Sure.
But
I'll be honest.
With Oregon,
the most surprising thing I heard you say there is that Michigan actually managed to score 17 points on them.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
But the key thing here, and this is going to be a key thing for Ohio State to be able to continue to score against their rival here, is that third downs. Oregon was 10 for 15, and they stopped. If everyone remembers, they stopped in the second half. It was 28-10, and they just let off the gas in that second half. That could have been much worse.
Sure.
Much worse than that. But Oregon just laid off the gas there. So I know not a lot. I know there's some people that was giving Travion Henderson some crap about not going into the end zone against Indiana.
I don't think anyone was giving him crap, right?
Well, I don't expect any of that.
No.
In this weekend here. I hope to see Ryan Day pedal to the metal.
Yep.
From when that clock starts down from 15 in that first quarter until it reaches zeros in the fourth quarter. It's not letting off the gas. That's what I hope to see here. And that he finally fulfills his 100-0 promise.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. New clock rules. This defense is still really good. Teams are only even like, I think Ohio State's gets like 60 plays a game this season so far. Something in that area. You're not going to get 100 points in this game. Sorry. But it'd be fun. And hey, try and get as close as possible. You know what I'm saying? Try and get as close as possible. Stop it, Jared. Let us have our hope. Listen, if you go into the game expecting 100-0, you're going to be disappointed. That's all I'm saying. If you're expecting 70-0, you're going to be disappointed. This is still a very good Michigan defense. I actually fully expect this to play out not dissimilarly to the Indiana game. Yep. With the exception of Indiana's first drive.
Yeah.
Like I don't expect Michigan to score on the first drive. I'll say that. I quite frankly don't expect Michigan to score. I'll say that. Maybe in the fourth quarter, maybe a junk time touchdown at the end. Maybe that similarity from Indiana carries over. But I do kind of see this playing out like the Indiana game, where Ohio State's clearly the better team going into halftime, even if that's not super reflected on the scoreboard. Maybe Ohio State has to kick a couple field goals. Maybe it's like 13-0 going into halftime.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of simple. Oh, go ahead.
And then I just expect Ohio State to take over in the third quarter. And, into the fourth quarter and put up some points and put the game away. There's a lot of similarities when that team up north played Texas. Sure.
Very similar score. Kind of similar score. Texas scores 30 in the 30s. They scored 31 and the Cheaters up north scored 12. So kind of close, score, at least from a point differential, exactly the same, 21 points.
Sure. And Ohio State did. And again,
a key thing in here is that Texas was 10 for 16. Oregon was 10 for 15 on third down. So getting those third downs, just like what you said, this team up north defense is really good, but being able to wear them down, and we've mentioned it before the season, they're starting 11 really good. Their backups, their rotation guys, not as much here. And we've seen that especially in that Oregon game. Like it was like, oh, that is not a good backup crew there. So being able to wear down this defense, convert those third downs, extending the drives there, because it's going to be tough sledding that first half. You gotta enforce your will onto that team up north and show your dominance, and then wear them down. And then in the second half, like Ohio State has been historically all year, that third quarter, they've done pretty well here. So if they can really wear them down, and then the third quarter, just go for the KO. That's what I expect.
We could, if we wanted to. Ohio State and Michigan both played Indiana and both played Northwestern recently. We could use those games as litmus tests for this game. I'm not going to look at Northwestern. And I know, in case there's some Michigan fans who snuck their way into this, I know there's some Michigan fans who are going to be like, oh, you're not going to look at Northwestern because Michigan did really good, did better in Northwestern than... No, it's because it's Northwestern. Like, Ohio State could have scored 50 if they wanted to. Whatever. It's Northwestern. The more apt comparison here is the competitive football team, is the actually good football team that Ohio State had to try to beat, and that Michigan had to try to beat.
Yeah.
And that's Indiana.
Here's the thing.
Michigan lost to Indiana.
It was 17. It was 17. Yeah, it was 17-6 at halftime for that team up north against Northwestern. Ohio State was up 21-7, and then they put up 10 more in the third. They didn't do anything in the fourth quarter because they shut that down. The Cheaters up north scored 14 in the third quarter and then 19 in the fourth quarter. So they laid it on. They laid it on in the end.
I don't care about the Northwestern game. Let's look at the Indiana game.
I know, but there's some people complaining.
I don't care.
50 to 6 versus 31 to 7.
Let them be mad. Let them be mad. I don't care. Both teams had to try against Indiana. Both teams showed up to the Indiana game knowing they had to try to win the game.
Sure. All right. So Indiana, 246 yards, which, what was it, like 180 yards or something like that came in the first half. And we saw that Indiana struggled in the second half. We all saw that.
Yeah.
And the team up north, 206 yards of offense there, which then you look at last weekend with Ohio State and Indiana. Ohio State put up 316 yards and let up 153. So I would expect something along the lines of 300 yards for Ohio State and 180-ish for the team up north.
Okay.
So would be kind of my guess.
So speaking of the Michigan defense, they are likely, I'll say likely without Will Johnson, who is at least one of their two best players on defense.
Yes.
The other one being Mason Graham, who is a monster at defensive tackle. He absolute monster, absolute beast of a man. But you know, Mason Graham is expected to play. Will Johnson is not. That's my basic take of it right now. That's not confirmed, but he hasn't played in like 5 games. I think it's the last 5 games he hasn't played in. Rumors are that he's shut it down, preparing for the NFL, yada, yada, yada. Now, on the offensive side, we have a similar rumor with Colston Loveland. Now, where it's not similar is that Colston Loveland played last week, where it's been several weeks since Will Johnson played. Colston Loveland did just play last week. Now, that being said, that's the game he got hurt in. And while we don't have any sort of official injury report, it is, I believe, a shoulder, is what has been reported. Is he going to play? You know, I think there were some national reports stating that he wasn't. Coach Moore said that, you know, it hasn't been decided yet. He was incredibly vague. He gave away nothing in the press conference, which fine. It's his prerogative.
Yep.
But we don't know if Colston Loveland's going to play, which is real bad for Michigan if he doesn't, because he's basically their only receiving threat. He has approximately 1/3 of the team's entire receptions.
That's a tight end.
Yeah, but he's a real good tight end though. But yeah, Michigan has nothing in the wide receiving core. Their two leading wide receivers have 22 and 23 receptions. And in case anyone lost track at home, this is the last week of the regular season. Their top wide receivers have 22 and 23 receptions each, respectively.
Less than 2 catches a game.
Kyle, their fourth leading receiver behind Colston Loveland at 1. Then you have Morris and Morgan. And by the way, Morgan didn't play last week against Northwestern, although I think he is expected to play this week, for what it's worth. But their fourth leading receiver on the team, Donovan Edwards, with 16. Is that right, Kyle? Do you have that in front of you? 16 receptions. Okay. So Loveland was 56, Morris 22, Morgan 23, Edwards 16, and those are the only pass catchers on the team to have double-digit receptions this year. Once again, in case anyone forgot, it's week 14. It's week 14. Your two best wide receivers, 22 and 23 catches in week 14.
Yeah, terrible.
That is considerably less than 2 catches a game.
So the quarterback safety net, which has been Loveland being out.
We don't know he's out.
If he is. Marlon Clean, who has 9 receptions for 88 yards.
Kyle, we need to talk a little bit more about these cheaters up north. But we'll have to do that after the ad break. Listen, it's Michigan week. We got a lot of anti-Michigan merch over at merch.thesleepcast.com. There's a lot of anti-Michigan merch, including the Know Your Enemy shirt. Kyle's wearing the hoodie version of it right now. Over at merch.thesleepcast.com. That's all. What else do you need to know? All right. Oh yeah, that one's great. I need to do more of those World War II posters. Now that I'm actually better at Photoshop as opposed to when I made them when I was not good at Photoshop. The enemy was always piss and blue. Yup. So, Kyle, Donovan Edwards on the cover of NCAA
a
25.
Great running back.
Well, I mean, if by great running back you mean the second best one on his team.
Again.
That again stung.
For the fourth year in a row?
Yeah. Converted linebacker Kalen Mullins has received the majority of the carries, is averaging 0.7 more yards per carry, and has almost 3 times as many touchdowns. To Mullings' credit, he's running 5.4 yards per play. Like, he's had a really good season. One of the few bright spots on the offense. And if you're wondering, Jared, why haven't you brought up the quarterbacks yet? There's a reason. Davis Warren's a walk-on, or I guess a former walk-on. He is completing 64% of his passes, which isn't bad. But he's only averaging 5.9 per completed pass. Or excuse me, I think that's per attempted pass. I think that's attempted pass, which is not great. And he's thrown more interceptions than he has thrown touchdowns. They used to have Jack Tuttle. He got a concussion and has medically retired. He was their third quarterback anyway, I would say. Or at least he didn't play a lot for them this year, regardless. Then you have Alex Orji, who is a running back.
Yes, he really is. Yeah. Rushing more times than he is.
To answer your question, Zach, no. Yeah, he's literally thrown the ball 44 times and ran it 50 times. Correct, Zach. That's a very correct statement. So, Ohio State's had some issues reining in running quarterbacks this year, or rather they've had issues with quarterbacks running on them. I don't know how many of the quarterbacks who ran on them were actually running quarterbacks, but that's a thing we've talked about in Know Your Enemy episodes past. I don't necessarily feel like rehashing right now. So, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a decent dose of Orji in this game. They do sprinkle him in here and there, especially in the red zone. I think they're going to test Ohio State's ability to stay disciplined, to look out for, Ohio State does over pursue at times. You might see them put in Orji, run some read option to try and force Ohio State not to not over pursue, run some read options, run some traditional options. I would not be surprised to see a decent dose of Orji this weekend as a result. Because while I'm tempted to call Davis Warren, if Alex Orji's the running quarterback, it's tempting to call Davis Warren the throwing quarterback. But quite frankly, that feels like a generous statement to give him. On the defensive side, it's a totally different story. The defense is stacked. Because even without Will Johnson, they still have Jair Hill, Quentin Johnson, Amir Hall. You got Zeke Berry, who's like a nickel safety hybrid. Malachi Page is another really good safety that they have. They have a trio of really good pass rushers, of edge rushers: Josiah Stewart, TJ Guy, Derek Moore, and their defensive tackle room is utterly stacked. Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant are absolutely high round NFL. I mean, Mason Graham is at least rumored as a first overall pick. Mason Graham's that good. He is that guy. He is that good. Kenneth Grant is also really, really good, and so is Rashawn Benny. Linebackers, you got Ernest Hausman. This is a stacked defense. Offensive line needs to hold stronger. It'll be a long day. I mean, I would say the good news is that, we have Chip Kelly.
Yes.
We played against a really great pair of defensive tackles against Indiana last week. And quite frankly, it hurt the running game a lot. I don't necessarily expect Ohio State to run the ball well this game.
So look at what they did against Indiana. They didn't run the ball well at all against Indiana too. And I mean, credit to Chip Kelly and what he's able to do with his creativity there. So I expect very similar things in this matchup.
Yeah. And, when we went over Indiana's defensive stats a week ago, it was all with this big asterisk of what offense did they play? What offense did they play? What's the best offense? Michigan has played Texas, and that was September Texas, who was a lot better than November Texas. That was against Oregon, who's been good all damn year. We kind of eventually settled that maybe Washington was the best offense that Indiana had played before Ohio State. Well, Michigan also played Washington, and it's not really even because I would say USC has a better offense. They have played some offenses is the point. These stats aren't fake. Quite frankly, the way Indiana's, number 2, number 1, number 2, number 4 defensive stats were totally fake, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
These Michigan stats are not fake. This is a legitimate defense. Kyle, is it time to do our predictions?
Yeah. let's go ahead and get into that here. Ohio
All right.
State player to watch.
Who's our guest picker this week?
Me being a professional podcaster.
Dinger. The answer is Dinger. The answer is Dinger.
Pull it up. It is Dinger. Dinger.
I told you.
It is Dinger.
All right. Ohio State player to watch, Kyle. Who do you have?
Oh,
Who does Dinger have? If you need time to think.
That's a great question. He has Sony Styles. Sony Styles as his player to watch for Ohio State here.
I'm going with. I'm sorry, you can go.
Go ahead. Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
I'm going with Tyleik Williams. I think that for the most part, Ohio State is going to struggle on offense. And like I said, especially early, I don't think we're going to run the ball effectively, not consistently effectively. But I think Ohio State's defense can very realistically throw a shutout here. And if they're going to throw that shutout, you need to stop Michigan's running game. And I'm looking at Tyleik for that because Austin says it in the chat. Austin says, if we can score 24 points, we win. Austin, subtract 10 from that. Subtract 10 from that. If Ohio State scores 14 points, they win this game.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily need the offense to win this game. If the defense does what I think the defense is capable to do, and if the defense is going to do that, it needs to start with Tyleik Williams. And not only does Tyleik Williams, is sort of man number one as far as stopping the run goes, which of course helps lead to the shutout because Michigan can't pass. Then at that point, you're getting the ball back more often. You're winning the time of possession. You're giving your offense, who's going to need some help with lots of possessions and by wearing out the defense, by keeping the time of possession on your side. Point is, if Ohio State stops the Michigan run, it's over. The game's over. Ohio State just has to win that phase of the game and everything else will fall into place. I'm going with Tyleik Williams.
Ohio State's got to be able to continue to protect Howard, continue to try to make holes for the running backs. Going to be tough sledding for this offense to protect, to find those running lanes there. So I'm going with Hinsman. I'm going to go with a player to watch for Ohio State is Hinsman here.
Yeah.
He can get it done. Those guards can get it done to make Graham not be as effective in this game. That's a huge win here. So I got Hinsman, mainly the interior line, but I'll pick Hinsman as my Ohio State player to watch.
Austin says defense is going to give up obligatory 2 touchdowns early. Hey, Austin, won't you do me a favor? Go find out how many games Ohio State has had the other team score double digits against them. Just go do that math.
Right.
Just go do that math for me real quick.
All right, while he's doing that, enemy to player to watch.
I already know the answer.
I already said him, Mason Graham.
Yeah.
I would say Mason Graham.
Who does Dinger say?
He has Mason Graham as well.
Okay, for the record, I also chose Mason Graham. I'm going to switch it up. I'll switch it up just so we get someone different in here. I'll go with Kalen Mullings. Again, if you stop the Michigan run game, then everything else falls into place. Save the cheerleader, save the world. That's it.
Key matchup. Looks like Dinger and I have the same thing, but my theme here: Ohio State offensive line versus the cheater up north defensive line.
Give me that, but swap it. Give me that, but swap it. Ohio State's defensive line versus Michigan's offensive line.
Okay. All right. This game here, 20.5.
Austin says his enemy player to watch is Stewart. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, he leads the teams in tackle for losses and sacks. Yeah. I almost picked him.
Key matchup is Martindale versus Kelly, to be honest.
20.5
Honestly,
points,
my focus is on the other side. My focus is on the other side of the ball.
20.5 points is the spread in the game. Where CBS Pick'em locked in, seen it as high as 23, but 20.5 is where we are at. So I'll start with Dinger here. He says here, oh my goodness, I have to do a word wrap. I cannot read it all. It's not fitting in here. All right, let me put it in here.
Gotta do word wrap. Why doesn't Sheets do word wrap by default?
I don't know. All right, he said, wrath and scorn, fire and destruction, as the Ents toppled Isengard, and shall the Buckeye fall upon the cheaters and lay them bare on the field for carrion eaters. But it will probably take a quarter to so for the adjustments to really kick in. So be ready for that. He has Ohio State winning and cover with the final score. Ohio State 69, the Cheaters 0.
Nice. Can I get some nices in the chat, please?
All right.
Speaking of the chat, Austin says 31-7. And Zach says 42-6.
I have Ohio State winning by the score of 38. Cheaters up north, 10.
Which is a cover. Yeah, I saw a lot of people like, 20 is a lot. 20 is a lot. 20 is, I don't think so. I do not think it's a lot of points.
When you really look at it, it's like, are they really going to score? And it's easy for if Ohio State gets 4 touchdowns, it's like, okay, yeah, they can cover here.
I don't know if you could make the line high enough for me, honestly.
All right, what do you got as the final score, Jared?
I was going somewhere, and then for a change, you interrupted me. Now, pot and kettle. We like the change. When the number first came out and it was 20 points, a lot of people thought, oh, that's a lot.
I did it first.
Oh, you did it again. And it was with the same anecdote. However, Ohio State has won. Anecdote time. Ohio State has won by 20 or more points in 8 of their 11 games this year. 8 of their 11 games, they have won by 20 or more points. Twenty is not near enough. Not near enough for me. I have my final score prediction set at 41-0. Yeah, I'm calling the shutout. That's what we do here. We call shutouts. That's what we do here. Okay, Kyle. Right. Let's do Austin's over unders, but let's do that after the break. It would allegedly be the first time in Ohio State history they got 3 shutouts in one season. I'm here for it. Sloopcast.com. We have a lot of links. You can find all of those links. at thesloopcast.com. It's just a campsite page where it's just a single landing spot for us to put all of our different links. That's all it is. It's just a web page full of different links. You can support us financially by going to Patreon. If you've listened to us all season, if you've been here for a bunch of our episodes this year, and if we provided you with a lot of entertainment along the way, maybe subscribe for a year on patreon.thesloopcast.com. You can subscribe for a full year at $32 a month. It's a little bit more than 32. It's $3 a year. I think you get like a month free. And then, but there's like tax. So I think it's like maybe 32, 33, 34, something like that. So, but it supports us for an entire year. Maybe something to consider this holiday season. Entertainment isn't the word I would use. Austin, not during ad time. And of course, you can also, lots of free ways to help us. YouTube.thesloopcast.com, subscribe, like, leave comments. That helps boost us in the algo. Come join our Discord community, discord.thesloopcast.com. And then of course you can find the audio version of this podcast in your podcast app of choice. All right, Kyle, let's do Austin's over-unders.
Sure thing. Austin's over-unders for those, and yes, Jared, it is after the second ad break here. Over-unders for those bitches up north.
The bitches up north. Listen, we called them the cheaters up north, which is almost listen, just figure out the acronym for yourself, maybe shuffle it around. Bitchigan, I think, is a good one.
Yep, that is. Yeah.
Yeah. Then, just the
cesspools of the world.
Cesspools of the world. We could have said that one in the first segment of the show. We could have.
Yeah.
All right. Austin's over-unders.
He has, and this one has actually
the cheater up north team. Exactly, Austin.
Morgan catches at 3.5.
Under.
Yep, under.
I mean, again, it's worth noting he didn't even play last week. I think he is expected to play this week. I think like using the old NFL code, I would call him probable. But yeah, it's under.
Total game plays of over 30 yards. And I'm going to guess this is both teams combined.
Both teams?
At 4.5.
Under.
Yeah, I say under as well.
Because, I don't think we're going to get any from Michigan. And Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State could get some, but for Ohio State to try and carry that entire number by themselves will be difficult against this defense. It's not to say that there won't get any of those plays. But if you would have said, and of course, if you'd have said this, if you'd give me that number last week, I'd have said over. Because, Indiana might get some of those plays, but against Michigan, no. I'm going to go under.
Donovan Edwards, yards per carry at 3.07.
Ooh.
I'm going to go over just because his average is 4.7. And if I'm looking at this, he's only ever been under that twice.
Against who, though?
Against Fresno State.
Okay.
And against their big brother, Sparty.
Interesting. Because, I mean, he was 3.1 against Indiana.
5.2 against Oregon. And 5.1 against Texas. That's why I'm saying over.
I'm going to go under.
All right. Cody Simon, Captain Simon.
Mm-hmm.
JT, or Simon and JT tackle for losses and sacks combined.
Okay.
At 3.51. Well, I mean,
I'm going to go
sack and a tackle for loss would be 2 then.
Technically it is.
So you get two you know what? Screw it. I'm going over.
Yeah.
I'm going over.
Yeah. I mean, I think the tackles for losses are going to be on the board this week. So yeah, give me over.
Warren
I kind of think Michigan's going to overthink themselves on a few plays and try and run some goofy shit. Some, extra double reverses and flea flickers and all sorts of dumb crap honestly, to try and take advantage of Ohio State over pursuing, but I don't think they're going to execute them well. And I think that's going to lead to some tackles for losses. Now, will either of those two guys get them? Different question, but I think there'll be some tackles for losses up for grab this game.
Warren passing yards at 117.5. It is note, Jared, he has never thrown for 117 yards or less.
So I'm sorry. What's the number?
117.5.
117.5.
Yeah, I'm going over. He had 204 against Texas. He had 165 against Oregon, and he had 137 against Indiana. Yeah, I understand. No, Loveland. I understand.
We don't know that.
They're going to
timeout. We do not know that Loveland's not playing.
Thank you. Yes.
And I think that's the key here. If he doesn't have Loveland, he's not hitting the over. And of course, even if he has Loveland, he might not hit the over. Therefore, I'm going to go under.
Okay. All right.
If Loveland is playing, he better be triple covered. Sure.
Jeremiah Smith receiving yards at 91.5. He's due for a big game. He's been kind of shut out recently here, and you know what? It's his time.
Shutout's a nice way of saying pass interfered in the end zone.
Yeah. It's his time to get back into the light. We've always seen, we always have these memories of the Buckeye legends making big plays against the rival in this type of game here. And you know what? As a true freshman here, I think Jeremiah Smith is going to make a name for himself here. So I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over for 91.5. And maybe that's just me hoping that he has a career game against this team here. But I'm going to go over.
I'm going to go over as well. I think, and again, I think that Michigan has a really good secondary, even without Will Johnson, who I think we can pretty comfortably say is not going to play, although that's not confirmed, but I feel like we can probably make that assumption. But even without Will Johnson, they still have a really good secondary. I wonder if they feel like they're going to need to blitz against Ohio State, because that would leave a lot of slants and drags and stuff like that open short, which is, and especially against the blitz, Jeremiah's time to shine in those situations because he's great with the ball in his hand. I'm going to go over. Okay. Wait a minute.
Right,
Kyle, what did you say? What did you say?
Over. I said over as well.
Okay, we'll go over.
Mullings touches at 13.5. Oh, I'm gonna go. Let me see what his recent touches were. So touches.
Yeah, he's not much of a pass catcher. I'll say that.
He's only had 6 receptions, and 4 of those in the past 2 games.
Well, that's good to know.
Yep. So 13.5 would have been an over last weekend against Northwestern. He had 12 rushes and 2 catches, and would have been under against Indiana, which he had 10 and 2. He had 8 rushes against Oregon and 6 rushes against Texas.
I'm sorry, what's the number again?
13.5. I'm going to go under. I'll go under.
Yeah, he hasn't hit that number since Illinois. I'm going to go under.
Oh, no, he hit it in Northwestern. If If you count the receptions.
I don't count the receptions. I don't expect him to get receptions in.
Okay. All right.
Against Ohio State.
Will Howard passing yards, but every passing touchdown counts as 50 extra yards at 389.5. Give me the over. He's gonna get 3 touchdowns here. He'll get 3 touchdowns, 250 yards. That is more than a cover.
I agree with Kyle. Over.
Yeah.
Do only plus. Oh, sorry. Can you read the question verbatim again for me? I need to check something.
Will Howard passing yards, but every passing touchdown.
Ah, damn. Okay.
Counts as 50 extra yards.
Okay. I was looking for that passing touchdown. I was looking for that passing touchdown.
All right. Judkins and Trey rushing yards, 178.5.
Under.
I'm going to go under just because I think they'll pass some more.
It's going to be Michigan's run defense was really, really good. Jared is saying we're going to win 40-something-0, and yet Trey and Judd don't carry the ball for 180. Seems unlikely. We disagree. I totally disagree. It's just we can do it through the air.
Judkins and Trey rushing yards, 178.5 yards.
And by the way, if you would have said 180, not carrying the ball, but all purpose yards, I would have stopped and thought about it a little bit more. Sorry, Kyle, did you introduce a new one?
Judkins and Trey rushing yards at 178.5 yards.
Well, we already did that, right? I said under.
Oh, no, I didn't get a chance to do that. Yeah, I'm going to go under as well. When's the last time they hit that?
I don't know. I can't look that one up quickly.
I'm trying to briefly look at these back and forth. You want to know what the answer is? And it's going to surprise you.
Okay.
Last time they hit this, September 21st against Marshall. They've only done this twice against Marshall and Western Michigan.
There you go. So, yeah, never against real competition.
And he says, and shits for giggles. Dams we give for the whole state of Michigan at 0.5.
Does this one count towards the? This one count towards?
It does. It does.
The final.
This is part of his over unders.
Mm-hmm. It does not. Good try. He says it doesn't. Under, but I think that should count.
Yes.
I think listen, I need this, Austin. I need this, Austin. I mean, I guess I did go 7-0 last week. So, maybe I don't need it. Maybe I don't. All right. Kyle, or anything else you want to say about Michigan before we wrap this?
No, I'm just tired of looking at this piss and blue color here. So I'm ready to close these tabs
from your show notes. I was about to say I don't have the media
in different tabs. So
yeah. Let's go ahead and end this. Do you have anything in Kyle's corner?
Thought I did. I thought I did. We got a boom. We had a boom just recently.
Well, we also lost a player.
We did. I'm trying to look here. So,
yeah, but we talked about the other one in previous episode, Austin.
Yeah. Jordan Woods flips from Cincinnati to Ohio State. A 6'3" cornerback.
Is anywhere from 6'3" to 6'5", depending upon who you listen to.
I mean, according to what I'm seeing here on different recruiting sites, he's 6'3".
Yeah, as Austin says, either way, big boy. As Austin alluded to, Ohio State lost their second defensive end commit in less than a week, less than 2 weeks at least. So a lot of people might be wondering, a lot of people might be concerned,
Yep.
What's happening, what's going on. Let me say this. Ohio State is bringing in on a visit, Chaz Coleman, a defensive end from Ohio, who's currently committed to Penn State. He's coming for a visit this weekend. And I'm gonna listen, we pronounce names poorly on this show. This is going to be an all-timer. This is going to be an all-timer. Epai Sitanel, oh boy. Sitanelli. Listen, that was an all-time bad performance, but he's a defensive end from California, currently committed to UCLA. Good try. Well, I don't, I tried. So those are two defensive ends that I think Ohio State are going to try and pick up. But they also haven't quit on Zahir Mathis, who was the defensive end who decommitted first. I think there's a possibility that they get him to recommit, although it's not a high possibility. I would sit in EL or Lee. Sit in E Lee or Lay. You changed it on me. Sit in Elay. Sit in Elay. Okay. Sit in Elay. And just to throw some additional warnings up for everybody. Naeem Offord, almost certainly going to decommit too. Ohio State has some cornerbacks coming in to replace him. TJ Alford, linebacker from Florida, probably also going to decommit. So just don't be surprised. This is what happens now. We're a week out from National Signing Day, the first National Signing Day, the early signing period. Ohio State is going to both receive and lose some decommitments. You get into this last week and shit hits the wall. This is normal. This is okay. It's not indicative of some big, large problem. You're going to lose a 5-star in Offord, but you're going to pick up a 5-star, hopefully, in David Sanders, which quite frankly, we need a tackle. We need a 5-star tackle a lot more than we need a 5-star cornerback right now anyway.
Yeah.
This is normal.
Okay.
This is normal. We get these shufflings right before signing periods. It's okay. It's normal. Everything's fine. NIL isn't broken. Coaches aren't fired or leaving. The cornerback Woods that Kyle mentioned decommitted from Cincinnati to come here. We're likely, although not 100%, we're likely to get a running back who just decommitted from Alabama 2 weeks ago. Georgia's still in play there. So this is just the normal reshuffling that happens this time of year. It's fine.
Yep.
All right.
I think we're good. I think we're good here, Jared.
All right. Tonight's ending music, a band, I believe they're from the Cleveland area, if I'm not mistaken. But they are called the Sidekicks. They are the Sidekicks. So with all that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music. And of course, support local podcasters. Once again, these are the Sidekicks.